Well, I cannot fully answer your question because you ask me, what did you think? Well, I don't have complete freedom of expression. It's a pity. But what can I and what must I say? Well, now it is clear. The speech from Vance in Munich and the several tweets from President Trump have officially become the doctrine of the United States. And like that, we must take note and act accordingly. What it needs is more than just new energy. We indeed need to focus on building a Europe that must understand that relationships, allies, and alliances after the Second World War have changed. We already know that Europe and the United States do not share the same vision of the international order. We remain defenders of multilateralism. We believe in an international order based on rules. We believe in science, we believe in scientific freedom, and we do not ignore global challenges such as climate change. The United States no longer believes in multilateralism, does not even believe in the rules-based international order. They say the so-called rules-based international order and believe that climate change is a lie, so we have differences in our worldview. If we are allies, we must act as allies. And allies do not threaten to interfere in the life, in the internal political choices of these allies. We respect them. We respect each other's sovereignty. Surely many Europeans do not share the same vision as the Americans on different subjects. And it's natural that they do not share the same vision we have. What we cannot accept is this threat of interference in the political life of Europe. The United States cannot replace European citizens in choosing which are the good parties and the bad parties. The United States cannot replace Europe in the vision we have of freedom of expression. And on that, we must be clear. Our history has taught us that there is no freedom of expression without freedom of information. And freedom of information requires respect for pluralism. So there will never be freedom of information if there is a monopoly on software. And there will be no freedom of expression if the freedom of information of citizens is sacrificed to defend the techno-oligarchs of the United States. So we must be clear about that, because when we have friends, when we have allies, when we have partners, there shouldn't be misunderstandings. We must be clear. And the United States remains an important ally. The United States is an important economic partner. But our Europe must be sovereign in this sense. This also has consequences from the perspective of our security and from the military point of view. In fact, we must say it, I know that here, they are not all supporters of President Macron, but it must be said frankly, Macron saw clearly in 2017. And what he envisioned in 2017 in his speech from the Sorbonne, I believe he didn't even think it could become a reality, which now also has a very clear deadline in this strategy. In 2027, the Europeans must replace the United States in the leadership of NATO. That's clear. That's what we must do. But if we want to be strong on the international stage, we must be strong internally. And if we want to be strong internally, we need to complete the great achievements. When Moscow says it largely shares the United States' vision on Europe, it must make us question. And in fact, when we carefully read the passages on Ukraine, we understand why Moscow shares this vision. Because the objective in this strategy is never a peace or a just and lasting peace. It's only the cessation of confrontations and the stability of relations with Russia. Quite a few African and Latin American leaders told us that we need to be careful, because if we open this Pandora's box by allowing just one country, a permanent member beyond, a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, to have the right not to respect the United Nations Charter, not to respect territorial law, not to respect sovereign rights and each other's borders, that is a blank check for everyone. Not everyone, but several, to do the same with their neighbors. He can do the same with his neighbors. We cannot now accept that Ukraine's sovereignty, Ukraine's right to self-determination, Ukraine's territorial integrity, and Ukraine's recognized borders can be challenged, questioned. And if it happens in Ukraine, imagine what could happen here in Africa. So, it's not a European issue, and that's what Europe must understand. And that the world is not just the States, the United States, and China. The world today is quite diversified. It is multipolar, and we must engage with everyone around the world. We must engage with the African Union, with Latin America and the Caribbean, with the countries of Asia, and everyone is watching us.